greatest responsibility is to serve our
Treasure Valley communities.
The El Paso Las Cruces community.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another chapter of The Art of War by Sun Tzu. In this video, we're going to take a look at Chapter 2, Doing Battle. Hey, remember guys, as we're going through the video, remember the challenge I give to you. Each day pick a line from Sun Tzu's article that we're talking about. Today it's going to be Doing Battle. Ponder on it, think about it, pick a line each day and see what Sun Tzu is saying, what you think he might be saying, and how that relates to you. Go through each line, try to remember it the best you can, and I encourage you to use this video as a reference if you don't have a book available at your disposal. So before we get started, if you're looking at this and saying, why is the City Walk guy here, and why is Poe staring at me, why are they here, please refer to the first video, The Art of War Strategic Assessments, and that will explain everything. I explain why these characters are here. Alright, so let's continue. Sun Tzu says, when you do battle, even if you are winning, if you continue for a long time, it will dull your forces and blunt your edge. If you besiege a citadel, your strength will be exhausted. If you keep your armies out of the field for a long time, your supplies will be insufficient. I feel like that line kind of spoke to me today, as far as my finances goes. Zhang Yu says, when you are spending a great deal of money on a military operation, if the army is out in the field for too long, your budget will not be enough to cover the expense. Li Quan says, as the classic spring and autumn annual says, war is like fire. If you do not put it out, it will burn itself out. On the line 2, Sun Tzu says, when your forces are dulled, your edge is blunted. Your strength is exhausted and your supplies are gone. Then others will take advantage of your debility and rise up. Then even if you have wise advisors, you cannot make things turn out well in the end. Li Quan says, a large-scale operation involves enormous expense, which only breaks you down in the field, but also exhausts you at home. Therefore, wise government does not keep its army in the field. Someone should send this to the Pentagon. Now on the line 3, Sun Tzu says, therefore I have heard of military operations that were clumsy but swift, but I have never seen one that was skillful and lasted a long time. It is never beneficial for a nation to have a military operation continue for a long time. Cao Cao says, some win through speed even if they are clumsy. I feel like that comma is in the wrong place. I'm not going to fix it. Dreemurr says, some may be clumsy in attack, but they get to the upper hand through extraordinary swiftness, because they are not subject to the problems of wearing out their forces and using up their resources. Now we move to line 4. Sun Tzu says, therefore those who are not thoroughly aware of the disadvantages in the use of arms cannot be thoroughly aware of the advantages in the use of arms. Li Quan says, advantages and disadvantages are independent. First know the disadvantages, and then you know the advantages. I feel like that's, like, you should know that, but sometimes that's something we always forget. Du Yu says, this means that if you are planning to mobilize your forces and embark upon a campaign, if you do not first think about the commodities of danger and destruction, you will not be able to reap any advantage. Line 5, Sun Tzu says, those who use the military skillfully do not raise the troops twice and do not provide food 3 times. That's an interesting phrase. Cao Cao says, this means you draft people into service once, then immediately seize victory. You do not go back to your country a second time to raise more troops. At first you provide food, After that, you feed off the enemy. And then, when your soldiers return to your country, do not greet them with yet more free food. Dreemurr says, determine whether the enemy can be successfully attacked. Determine whether you can do battle, and only afterward raise troops. Then you can overcome the enemy and return home. Line 6. Sun Tzu says, by taking equipment from your own country, but feeding off the enemy, you can be sufficient in both arms and provisions. Cao Cao says, when you are not going to go to war, first you must calculate your expenses and strive to feed off the opponent. Li Kuan says, if you have your own arms and take food from the enemy, then even if the campaign takes you far afield, you will not lack for anything. Alright, on to line 7, Sun Tzu says, when a country is impoverished by military operations, it is because of transporting supplies to a distant place. Transport supplies to a distant place, and the populace will be impoverished. Dreemurr says, and Dreemurr is quoting Master Guan, when provisions go for 300 miles, the country is out of a year's supplies. When provisions go for 400 miles, the country is out of 2 years' supplies. When the provisions go for 500 miles, the people pale with hunger. This means that food should not be transported, for if it is, the producers will lose, so they cannot be impoverished. Li Kuan says, troops are raised repeatedly, and the levies are heavy. Now on the line 8, Sun Tzu says, those who are near the army sell at high prices. Because of high prices, the wealth of the common people become exhausted. Jia Lin says, wherever the troops gather, the prices of all goods soar. Since people are greedy for exceptional profits, they sell off all their goods. Though at first they make a great deal of profit, in the end they run out of goods. Also, since there are extraordinary levies, those with something to sell demand the highest prices they can get, and the common people go broke trying to buy things, so the country naturally is impoverished. Let me go on a quick tangent here. So, I don't know if you watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, and you know the Cabbage Man, you know he's a poor cabbage guy. But in Legend of Korra, he eventually starts Cabbage Corp, and I think that's where Cabbage Corp came out of. You know, his grandfathers took that one over. What if the Cabbage Man knew this the whole time, and he made all of his money off of selling to the Fire Nation and the Earth Nation? I think that's what happened. Alright, let's go on the Wang Shi. When supplies are transported far away, the people are worn out by the expense. In the markets near the army, the prices of all goods shoot up. Therefore, long military campaigns are a plague to a nation. Line 9, Sun Tzu says, when resources are exhausted, then levies are made under pressure. When power and resources are exhausted, the homeland is drained. The common people are deprived of 70% of their budget, while the government's expenses for equipment amount to 60% of its budget. Ho Yang-shi says, the people are the basis of the country. Food is the heavens of the people. Those who rule over others should respect this and be sparing. At least Ho Yang-shi knows the gateway to my heart. Mei Yao Chen says, the common people provide goods, food, and labor for the use of the military, thus losing most of their own sustenance, while the government provides equipment for the use of the military, thus losing more than half of its budget. Therefore, taxes are used up, the army is worn out, and the populace is exhausted. When levies are oppressive and the people are impoverished, the country is drained. Line number 10, Sun Tzu says, therefore a wise general strives to feed off the enemy. Each pound of food taken from the enemy is equivalent to 20 pounds you provide for yourself. Cao Cao says, Transportation of provisions itself consumes 20 times the amount transported. Zhang Yu says, it takes 20 pounds of provisions to deliver 1 pound of provisions to a distant army. If the terrain is rugged, it takes even more than that. This is why an able general will always feed off the enemy. Line number 11 goes, starting with Sun Tzu. So what kills the enemy in anger? So what kills the enemy is anger. What gets the enemy's goods is reward. Wang Shi says, this just means establishing rich rewards. If you let the troops plunder at will, they may get out of hand. Zhang Yu says, if you stir up all the officers and troops so that they are all enraged, then they will kill the enemy. If you reward your men with spoils, that will make them fight on their own initiative, so the enemy's goods can be taken. This is why it is said that where there are big rewards, there are valiant men. Now we're on the line number 12. Sun Tzu says, therefore, in a chariot battle, reward the first to capture at least 10 chariots. Mei Yao Chen says, if you reward everyone, there will not be enough to go around, so you offer a reward to one to encourage everybody. Someone should tell Little League coaches this. Line number 13. Sun Tzu says, change their colors, use them mixed in with their own, treat the soldiers well, take care of them. Cao Cao says, you change their color to make them the same as your own. Use them mixed in with your own so not to leave them out to their own desires. Zhang Yu says, captured soldiers should be well treated to get them to work for you. Line number 14, Sun Tzu says, this is called overcoming an opponent and increasing their strength to boot. Dreemurr says, by capturing the opponent's soldiers and by using the enemy's supplies, you increase your own strength. Mei Yao Chen says, when you capture soldiers, give them responsibilities according to their strengths. Take care of them kindly, and they will work for you. Now we move on to line 15. Sun Tzu says, so the important thing in a military operation is victory, not persistence. I feel like this could be applied to my dating life. Cao Cao says, persistence is not profitable. An army is like fire. If you do not put it out, it will burn itself out. Mei Yao Chen says, in all the above mentioned, it is important to be quick. If you are quick, then you can economize on expenditures and allow the people rest. Now we move on to line number 16. Sun Tzu says, hence we know that the leader of an army is in charge of the lives of the people and the safety of the nation. Cao Cao says, if the military leadership is wise, the country is safe. Wang Shi says, the lives of the people and the order of the nation are in the charge of the generals. The difficulty of finding good leadership material is a perennial problem. Alright, now we're going to read the whole chapter together. Remember, while we read the whole segment together, try to pick apart anything that we go over to see if you can see any of the phrases in the new light. Alright, let's begin. When you do battle, even if you are winning, if you continue for a long time, it will dull your forces and blunt your edge. If you besiege a citadel, your strength will be exhausted if you keep your armies out in the field for a long time. Your supplies will be insufficient. When your forces are dulled, your edge is blunted, your strength is exhausted, and your supplies are gone. Then others will take advantage of your debility and rise up. Even if you have wise elders, you cannot make things turn out well in the end. Therefore, I have heard of military operations that were clumsy but swift, but I have never seen one that was skillful and lasted a long time. It is never beneficial to a nation to have a military operation continue for a long time. Therefore, those who are not thoroughly aware of the disadvantages in the use of arms cannot be thoroughly aware of the advantages in the use of arms. Those who use the military skillfully do not raise troops twice, and do not provide food 3 times. By taking equipment from your own country, but feeding off the enemy, you can be sufficient in both arms and provisions. When a country is impoverished by military operations, it is because of transporting supplies to a distant place. Transport supplies to a distant place, and the populace will be impoverished. Those who are near the army sell at high prices. Because of high prices, the wealth of the common people is exhausted. When resources are exhausted, the levies are made under pressure. When power and resources are exhausted, then the homeland is drained. The common people are deprived of 70% of their budget, while the government's expenses for equipment around 60% of the budget. Therefore, a wise general strives to feed off the enemy. Each pound of food taken from the enemy is equivalent to 20 pounds you provide by yourself. So what kills the enemy is anger, and what gets the enemy's goods is reward. Therefore, in chariot battle, reward the first to capture at least 10 chariots. Change their colors, use them mixed in with your own. Treat the soldiers well and take care of them. This is called overcoming the opponent and increasing your strength to boot. So the important thing is that a military operation is victory, not persistence. Hence we know that the leader of the army is in charge of the lives of the people and the safety of the nation. Alright everybody, please like, subscribe, and comment. If you were wondering what the purring was in the background, that was my cat. Don't bother her, or don't mind her. Alright guys, take care, love you all. Like, subscribe, comment. More is coming your way. Alright guys, peace. Ciao.